Hi, I'm Stu Heckenberg and this is Freelance for the Win. So about me, I'm a freelance web developer. I've been doing it for about 10 years. I've recently given up doing freelance to join my wife in her business, but I thought I'd share a bit about the process, give some hint and tips that have helped me throughout my career and pass those on to those of you out there that might be looking to start freelancing as a web developer. I've worked for a number of web development companies full-time, but I got sick of the 9 to 5, I got sick of the commute, and so I started becoming a freelance and did my work that way for the last 10 years. So a quote from my dad to start things off: "The world runs on 98% bullshit and 2% brains." Let me explain. The 2% brains part. So there's a range of skills that as a web developer you need to learn. The first three, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you definitely have to learn those. The others that are optional, but you probably should learn as you progress, are languages like PHP, MySQL, and technologies such as Apache and Linux. Now there's another skill that's more important than any of those above: communication. This will be your number one skill in your toolbox. So the 98% of the 98% bullshit, 2% brains speech. There's one thing that will determine your success as a freelance, and that is confidence. Putting yourself forward and having people know that you know what you're about and acting that way. So how do you do that? First of all, make eye contact with people. It doesn't have to be creepy, you don't have to stare, but don't look away, don't look down. Look at people. You don't have to look at them the whole time. You can talk, you can look away, look back, smile. Gauge your audience. See what level they're at. If the people you are talking to are non-technical, don't use technical jargon. And quite often the people coming to you won't be, because if they were technical, they wouldn't need to hire you to do work. That being said, there are web agencies that will hire you and they are technical. So pitch yourself accordingly so that they know what you know, that you know what you're talking about. Smile and act confident. So again, confidence is key. Confidence will go a long way towards not only convincing people that you know what you're talking about, but also getting paid more. More about that later. Use positive language. Sure, as a web developer or as a programmer, your job is to identify problems and solve them. So you have to be negative to the point of pointing out problems, but use positive language. If you do point out a problem, follow that up with a solution. Try not to be critical or overly critical. Measure your approach between positive and negative, and just keep things positive as much as you can. And the last point there is less is more. Now this is a problem for me because I'm a bit of a talker, but when you're communicating to people, try to keep it brief, eloquent, and to the point. Now, preparation. Any good builder who's building houses or doing construction or engineering needs a set of tools. Likewise, as a web developer, you need a set of tools. Here's my list of the bare basics that you'll probably want to start with. Web browsers. This might sound obvious, but you want a collection of them. You want Google Chrome, you want Mozilla Firefox, you'll want Internet Explorer. You need to be able to make sure that the website that you're developing works across various browsers, because the people viewing it will have different browsers. A text editor. Of course, to write code, you'll need to have a text editor. I recommend Visual Studio Code. I used to just code in Vim. Any text editor that has color highlighting for programming, or HTML, CSS, JavaScript, things like that, that's what you want. Notepad would do in a pinch, but I wouldn't recommend it. Revision control. Learn Git. Go to GitHub, do their little courses on how to learn Git. Git is a way to keep track of all your code. There's other ones like Mercurial, that's also fine. SVN, CVS, there's a whole stack, but learn Git. A web server. Now, you can go two approaches here. You can either hire a web server yourself online, and they're relatively cheap per month, but I would actually recommend learning how to set up a web server on your local computer. There's plenty of tutorials out there on how to do that. But it's a good idea to be able to set up a local web server on your own box so that you don't actually have to pay a bill every month for a web server on the internet. That being said, there are other ways that you can look at in sharing your code with people or previewing your website. And so you might want to have one on the internet, but there's other ways to do it by sharing your local one, which I'll get into in another tutorial later on. Internet connection. Again, this one sounds obvious, but there's nothing worse than having a deadline and not being able to upload a website to a server. Likewise, if you need to have video conferencing or a meeting, you need to have a substantially well-connected internet. You can't have one that's choppy, that drops out, where you're offline for hours at an end. And it is really hard to do development if your internet goes out. The reliance that you will have on going online to Google how to solve a particular problem or to download certain programming libraries, you don't realize it until you don't have it. An FTP client. So to upload your files to a server so that a client can see them or upload them to the client themselves, you'll need an FTP program, FTP client. Invoicing software. This is very important if you want to appear professional. There's plenty of these systems online. You can download ones that work on your computer or use one of the ones that are online. You just put your logo and your heading at the top. You have your terms and conditions, which are also very important. And again, I'll do another tutorial on those later. But you need to be able to put out quotes to clients and also convert those into invoices and keep track of the money coming in. Video communication. So you'll need to have Skype or Zoom or any kind of video communication. While email will be the primary way in which you communicate with your clients, it doesn't hurt to have face-to-face meetings, and so of course you'll need video communication software. Important documents that you'll need as a freelance. An online CV. Just go to LinkedIn, follow the bouncing ball, fill out their form. You can then send clients a link to your online CV at LinkedIn, or you can click a button on the website to download a PDF that you can attach to emails that you send. A portfolio website. This is optional, and it can be as simple as a single page with thumbnails of work that you've done or examples of skills that you have. I had one for many years that got me lots of work. I updated it semi-regularly. I took it offline after joining my wife's company, and I'm not doing that much freelance anymore. And besides, as things went on, my portfolio website became less and less important as I was getting repeat work by word of mouth. So people weren't finding me online. They were saying, hey, you've done work for Bill here, and I'd like to, have you do work for us. Or Sally would call up and say, hi, you're a friend of Bill, things like that. Like, this Bill guy is giving lots of work, right? But early on, a portfolio website does help, but it's not 100% necessary. If you can list what your skills are, or even just use LinkedIn as your portfolio by listing websites and projects that you've done and linking to them there. A work-seeking email. This is probably just as important as your online CV. This is where you will get most of your work. This is your pitch. This is your approach to them. This is the first interaction that you have with potential clients, so you have to make it good. So about that. Keep it brief. Introduce yourself as a freelance web developer looking for work. Provide links to your online CV or portfolio. Mention your hourly and daily rate. Ask to hear about the work that they've got. Quite often, you're dealing with people who, they might not be direct clients. They could just be web agencies. These are the people that you would email the most. So do a Google search for web agencies in your local area, and a stack of companies will come up. A lot of the time, they have too many projects on, or they don't have enough full-time staff or even part-time staff to do this work, and they outsource this work, and that's where you come in. So the person who is seeking someone to carry out the work, the one that's running the show there, if you approach them and say, hey, I'm a web developer, I cost this much per day or per hour, I can do these things, that's how you get your work. They'll say either no, or they won't email back. Be prepared to have a lot of being ignored. You might get a reply every 1 in 10 or every 1 in 100 even. But you just got to keep churning, keep sending out emails, check back with people like every few weeks or months saying, hey, have you got any work? Even if they have ignored you, eventually they'll either put you in spam or they'll reply and you might get some work, who knows. But yeah, a work-seeking email is going to be your bread and butter when it comes to finding work. So making the transition to freelance from either unemployment or full-time work. If you have a job, keep that job at first. You don't want to quit your job and say, hey, I'm a freelance web developer now, if you've got bills to pay, because it may take you weeks or months to find that first gig. Start small but not menial. What I mean by that is don't undervalue yourself. Say, yeah, I'll do your website for your business and I'll charge you this many hundreds of dollars or even this many thousands of dollars, depending on your skill set and what you feel comfortable charging with, based on that. Stretch yourself. So there may be projects where you can do 9 out of 10 of the things that they need, or maybe even 2 out of 5 that they need. But if you think you can learn the other things that you don't quite know yet, or at least you've heard of them, or you're confident that you could familiarize yourself with them and do them, say yes, commit to the project. Now, you don't want to get into the situation where you're committing to too many things that you can't do and then you don't carry them through. That's a bad look. But don't be afraid to stretch your skill set, learn on the job. Most web developers learn on the job even when they're working in full-time. The boss gives them a project, they have to learn how to do something. So it's no different from freelance. You just have to be confident that you can learn those things. And again, don't promise things you can't deliver, but have fun with stretching your abilities. Find interesting projects. So you need to keep yourself motivated. Some of these projects can last months. A lot of them go for several weeks at a time. You need to keep doing stuff that's going to keep you wanting to do it. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the topic of the project doesn't have to be up your alley. Like, you might be doing a website for a bank or for some pet food, but the actual technology used in the project could be the interesting part. For example, like they might need you to do a really funky looking slideshow or some kind of really cool fonts, or just there could be some back-end aspect to it, like the e-commerce, things that will keep you challenged and keep you motivated to keep doing the work. They're the best projects to go for. So communicating with clients. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Be confident, be direct, explain things. Don't just use throwaway comments. Try and keep things to the topic when you're talking about work. And if you say you're going to deliver something, do your best to deliver it. Explain things, but keep it short and sweet. Again, I have great trouble doing this because I like to talk a lot. Don't be afraid to say no. So if you've committed to do a list of tasks and the client wants you to just squeeze in this extra task, look, it's up to you whether you choose to do that. But if it's not part of what you're getting paid for, don't be afraid to say no. If it's not part of what your terms and conditions say, and again, maybe put in your terms and conditions that any extra revisions to your work you'll charge extra. But again, I'll do a later video on that down the track. But yeah, don't be afraid to say no to things. And also don't be afraid to say yes. If there's something that, again, like I said previously, you're not sure whether you can do, but you're willing to give it a shot, go for it. Don't be afraid to say yes. Now, I mentioned this before, but follow up negative points with positive ones. Try to keep things as positive as possible. Yes, you are solving problems. Yes, you have to point out faults because quite often you'll be called in to rectify things that are bad and you need to make them good. But people just on a day-to-day basis don't like dealing with negativity. So just try to keep things positive. Anytime you come up with a problem or a negative thing, try and come up with a solution or a positive thing to follow it. Now, maintaining momentum as a freelancer. When you're coming to the end of a project, start looking for more work. I've made the mistake, and you will probably make this mistake too, that this project's gone on, you haven't, it's coming towards the end of it, and you haven't really been looking. And so the project does come to an end, and then you've got to spend, a few weeks looking for more work. And that can become really difficult as your bank balance goes down and you're trying to pay the rent or things like that. Just try and time it so that when you're getting towards the end of a project, you're regularly looking for work. And when you don't have any work, schedule a day or so many days per week that you're going to send out emails hunting and just keep churning out those emails. Have you got any work? Here's what I can do. This is what I charge. Just keep grinding. Now, tune your rate of pay. What I mean by that is don't undercharge and don't overcharge. You'll find this out as you go. So obviously, if you get lots of work in really easily, you might be undercharging. See, ask what colleagues are charging. Go on the web, Google it. That being said, if you charge too little and you then up your price too much and you stop getting work, yeah, you might have put it up too high. But also charging more, and sometimes even substantially more, can get you more work. It sounds counterintuitive, but people see a higher price as being better quality. Whether or not that's true, whether or not you're actually good enough, only they can be the judge of that, your clients. But I tend to find I had less trouble with clients where I charged them the right price or a higher price. Cheap clients often are the most annoying clients. They're niggly, they pick at things. People that pay the right money, they don't care. They just want this thing done. They've got the money to pay for it. Go and do this thing. Here's the cash. So charging more can actually, be less stressful. So tune your rate of pay. Have time off. This is very important. Sleeping hours as a programmer, you're working all hours because you're just an idiot nerd, or at least I was. So you're working till 4 a.m. and then you're sleeping till the afternoon and then you're doing it all again. If you're a night owl, that's fine, but I would strongly suggest you try and keep regular working hours and then switch off. So in the evening, switch off, play video games, watch Netflix, spend time with your family, whatever it is, but just you need to switch off every day. And again, even though you're fishing for work regularly, maybe have a break in between projects. Find that next project, but schedule it to begin a week or two after you finish a project so that you can just have time to rest, recuperate, and ground yourself and get ready so that you're keen for your next project rather than it being perhaps a chore to get onto the next project straight after the one you've just finished. So the last thing I'll leave you with is be as you wish to seem. This is a quote from Socrates. So if you carry yourself with confidence and you tell people that you're a web developer and you start doing web development as a freelance, you're a freelance web developer. The same applies for anything in life. If you do the actions that thing is defined as being, then you are that thing. So if you want to be a web developer, be the web developer. Be as you wish to seem. Go out and seek web development work. Do the web development work. And before long, you'll become a freelance web developer. So hopefully the tips that I've been talking about today have helped you, or at least given you some insight into what freelance web development is all about. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I'm happy to answer any and all questions, and I will reply to all comments on this video. And if you like this content, please subscribe and like this video. As mentioned during this talk, I'll be creating extra tutorials on various topics, such as how to do particular technical things, or maybe how to do certain non-technical things related to freelance web development. I'll also be doing tutorials on other computer-related things, such as video games and stuff like that. So stay tuned, and if there's anything in particular you'd like to learn, again, leave a comment about that, and I'll do my best to put something together for you. Thanks for listening, and hopefully this video has been a great help, and good luck with it. Freelance is a really good way to work. It beats doing 9 to 5, and you know what? We now live in the age of the internet, so it makes sense, right? Okay then, best of luck. I'll catch you later. Bye.